אהלן, כאן גולובניצ'י. בסרטון הקרוב אתם יכולים לראות ראיון של ליאור רביד עם מייסד חברת Learnign Strategies, דוקטור פול שילי. עכשיו בראיון הזה אנחנו שאלנו את השאלות הנפוצות ביותר על שיטת הפוטורידינג. אם אחרי שתראו את זה יהיו לכם שאלות נוספות, תשלחו לנו את השאלות במייל ואנחנו נענה לזה בהקדם. תהנו מהסרטון.
Tell us something about yourself and also about the history of photoreading.
Sure. I started Learning Strategies Corporation in 1981. And in 1985, as a curriculum designer and as an expert in the field of adult learning, human development, and in accelerative learning, I was asked to develop an application of accelerated learning for speed reading for a company in Minneapolis called IDS American Express. It was for their information systems data processing group. And it was such a successful program that I said to a colleague, how about if we bring this to the general public? And that became photo reading. In 1986, it was presented to the general public, and now the book is got over 1 million copies in print worldwide. We've taught it in 42 or 43 countries. And we're excited that you're an instructor in Israel and can bring this technology to your part of the world. The concept behind photo reading is based on two important principles that I had spent most of my life really working with. Number one is this ability of the brain to perceive information extremely rapidly. It's a part of our brain's function called a pre-conscious processor. So we all have one. It's amazing. It does a lot of work for us and then gives us the information consciously. The second thing that we have is a non-conscious mind, a huge, vast part of us that's other than conscious. Mm-hmm. And so by using these two parts, by following a specific program like photo reading, we can get through our reading in the time we have at a level of comprehension we need. And what's unique about it is that we actually start you at a page per second. And that's a radical idea. It shifts the way we're actually thinking about reading. It changes basically everything.
And how can you explain it for a person who hear about photo reading in the first time?
Well, when someone asks, can I use what you know in order to read more quickly, I say, absolutely. Your brain is phenomenally powerful, and we're trained to read one word at a time, very slow, very linear, and we're forced to sound it out and make sure we know everything as we go. Well, it puts the brain in the wrong gear for the work that we're really asking it to do. And in order to learn anything new, we have to learn it non-consciously first. It's how you learned your language. It's how you learn to walk. Right. The human brain doesn't come out of the womb needing to look at a letter and make those discriminations, right? So we're learning to read with our whole mind, not just the linear, sequential processor. We're learning with our whole mind, and we're learning whole to parts. So we start you with an entire book in 4 minutes, because that turns on these parts of the brain that can process much more efficiently. So that's how I describe photo reading. Is it's a completely different way of processing written information. It's not even reading as you've understood it before.
Yeah. And let's say I'm an average person who watches this video. Why should I assign for this course?
Well, there's a couple of reasons. Certainly, if you understand, we're not in the information age. We're in the information overload age. That if you take regular reading, one word at a time, you can't get through the information that faces you every single day. You can't get through it with those skills that you learned in school. You need a different way of processing it. And so if information is important for your work, if you're a student and you need to get through these materials, most high school students are overwhelmed by how much you need to read in university, and we don't have the skills for it. And traditional reading isn't effective anymore. We need another way to get through written information. And so this is a very advanced way based on new neurosciences that show us what our brain is really capable of doing. So if you're in a profession where information is important, if you want to not just stay up with the information, but get ahead of it, if you want to be a leader wherever you may be, if you want to be able to, let's say, take a report that you would rather not read and finish it in minutes instead of hours. You could take a 60-page report and be done with it in 11 minutes. I mean, it's stunning. Yeah. And to be conversant and to be able to see solutions to problems because you're able to get through so much written material. I mean, it's really spectacularly important for anybody in the information age, because it's not just about keeping up, it's about getting ahead and really thriving. Here's another interesting statistic, is most knowledge that we have today is completely updated within months. I mean, it was back in the 1970s when I was in my undergraduate school, my science teacher said, this book just came out today and it's already 5 years out of date. That was in the 1970s. Now the half-life of information is a few months, you know?
Yeah.
So how do you keep up with that kind of massive overflow of information? And this works on electronic readers, it works on reading from the internet, it works on your cell phone and your pad reader, it works on anything, and it works great with books. So, you know, it's really the thing that we need for today's world.
And what are the results that people usually get from the course?
Well, if you think about the purpose of the course is to get your reading done in the time you have available at a level of comprehension you need, really depends on, say, what industry you're in, what profession you're in. So, for example, if I'm in a technical field and I have a journal, a technical journal that comes, it's very typical that a business person today will get the new journal and realize, I didn't read the last one, you know. So what do? They put it in a pile to read someday, and they never get to it. They just never get to it. So the results that we hear is people will get these journals, oh, they're excited. They'll photo read them very quickly over a lunch break. Really, 20 minutes. They'll know everything that's in these magazines, these journals that are important. They can take reports home and do them in minutes and be ready the next morning. One of the biggest problems in business today, really why we were hired years ago to develop this course, here are all these technical people writing all these reports, and they would get reports from all the other areas of business, and nobody was reading them. Well, how do you make decisions if you don't have the information to make the decisions on? Well, here in minutes, everybody can be equally informed, and you can make good decisions based on the directions we need to go. Not only being well-read in your industry, or as a student, to be well-read on the subject that you're studying, but then to also be broadly read, so you can read across your industry. What are the innovations that are happening? What are the basics? How are the basics changing? So, for example, students that come to our course, I say to them, you know, how often you get your reading assignment at the beginning of the semester, and it takes you the entire semester to read the book. Well, here, the first night you get the book, you'll photo read the entire textbook. Now, every time you go to class, you're remembering it, you're interacting with it, it makes all kinds of sense, it's not foreign every time you get it, and in the library, the professors will often say, now, here's the supplementary reading that we recommend you go do. Whoever does it. Nobody ever does it. But when they freak out at the end of the semester, just before the finals, they go to the library. Well, imagine this. First week of class, you photo read all your textbooks, you go to the library, and in the first 2 weeks, you photo read all of those. Now it's all in you. And so everything that's said, you're making connections, it makes sense. And we teach a number of techniques like how to take notes using mind mapping, how to take tests so that the information comes back to you effectively. I mean, it's really fabulous. In business, we've had people in technical professions where they need to take certification, like recertification. It's called, in the United States, continuing education units. Like they need so many units every 3 years or every 5 years. Dentists, lawyers, you know, all these people, they hate these classes. Well, now, with photo reading, piece of cake. It's super easy. They pass all their tests. There's no worries anymore, and it's really a pleasure for them. Not only that, we see that people in these professions love learning. It's like they've rediscovered their true love and passion for learning. So if you think about it, you know, we've got technical professions, we've got all of the trades, any trade profession that you might be in, any global industries, super important to have information. Students at every grade level, I mean from elementary school all the way up to graduate school. We've had PhD students in mathematics use it. It's great for technical information as well as just pleasure reading. There was a man, 93 years old, in Argentina, and he was a retired medical doctor, and at 93 he came into the photo reading program because he says, there's so much I still want to read, you know, and I don't know how much more time I'll have. So he took photo reading. Isn't that gorgeous? Yeah. It's just beautiful.
Great.
So, you know, even if it's for your pleasure, if you're retired and you're enjoying, you know, new hobbies. My wife wanted to learn how to become a painter. And so she ended up photo reading over 100 books on painting. Wow. And she developed her ability as a painter. So, you know, it's really spectacular. There's just no limit to how you can use this.
And anybody can photo read?
Yes. And we've had children ages 8 take the program. We've had all the way, you know, it doesn't take a special ability. You don't need to be extra smart to do this. In fact, we've had people that we tested on a beginning reading test at a rate of speed and comprehension that by every measure they were illiterate, and they produced a result at the upper 10% of their class.
And my last question is, how is photo reading is working for you?
It works fabulous for me. Now, you have to know that when I developed the program, I was in my master's degree. I had spent about a year in a 2.5-year program studying adult learning and human development. Then I was asked to develop photo reading, so I got to use it to finish my master's degree. And the difference was day and night. It was so incredibly different. It was fantastic. You know, from really struggling and studying and trying to run a business and 2 children at home and a family, you know, it's just who has time for it, right? To, oh, piece of cake, super easy, best grades ever. You know, it was amazing. So I was quite excited about being able to bring it to the general public. Now, since that time, I've had a very successful career in many, many industries as a consultant to all of these different industries. And I've been from aerospace engineering to beauty and barber supply industry, you know, so I've been a spokesperson across an amazing number of places. In education, worked with educators in different levels of education, two-year institutions of education, so on. So I'm called on to present to a wide variety of places, and getting up to speed using photo reading makes it lovely, quite easy. Now, not too long ago, a few years ago, I completed a PhD. And you know, many of my colleagues wonder, well, Paul, you're already beyond PhD with your work. But I wanted to learn the language of scholarship, because I know this is where I'm going to have an important influence in the direction that education goes in the future. So I received a PhD in leadership and change. And my focus was on transformative learning. And you should know that doctoral students really struggle with reading. In fact, one of my cohort members of the group that I was going through my PhD said, Paul, I've got to drop out of the program after 1 year. I said, Clarence, why do you have to drop out? He said, I can't keep up with the reading. I said, oh, don't worry, I got you covered. So I got him the home study course and totally changed his life. He said, Paul, I'm in this program. He recently graduated. He said, I got this because of photo reading.
Amazing.
So for me, doing the literature review was so wonderful, and 70% of all doctoral students never finish their dissertation. Because when it comes to doing the literature review, it's the killer. It stops so many people. So they do all this work and they never finish. And I said, that's not going to be my problem, because photo reading really makes going to a library like a child in a candy store. I mean, it's just, it makes the whole world of literature so available to you. So for me, it's been fantastic. I have 3 boys. They're all grown men now. They're all over the world, and they all used photo reading. And when we would go to a teacher conference, it was almost embarrassing, because the teachers would say, oh, we love having your children in these classes, and oh, they're so great, they're model students, and they get all their work done. I mean, for them, school was easy and it was fun.
Yeah.
Now, I want to say that it's not because they had some special genius, because my belief is all children are born genius, but they get it trained out of them very early in their education. So if they keep open and they use what's naturally within them, they will demonstrate amazing abilities in their life. So, you know, a lot of benefits throughout everything in my life.
Paul, thank you for meeting us. It was wonderful. Thank you very much.
And what is it? Toda roba?
Toda rabba. Right?